You are watching Omnis Protocol. I am Charles, also known as Omnis, and I'm here with a Star Wars Shatterpoint Battle Report. I want to preface this one. I have a question. For those of you who are nice enough to the channel that you watch the videos all the way through, first off, I appreciate you so much. The number one thing that I need for channel growth right now is just watch time. So if you're willing to just watch while you paint or have it on in the background, just know that I appreciate you. But if you do watch all the way to the end of this one, this game is a little bit of a roller coaster. I'm going to be honest. I've watched through this game multiple times now, and I'm curious what you think is the reason that one player wins over the other. There's so many things that happened over the course of this game that I have a really hard time pinpointing whether it was dice, whether it was order deck, whether it was misplays, whether it was luck. Like, there's just so many layers to this particular game and how the outcome ends. I'm curious what you as the viewer think. So if you watch all the way to the end, I would love a comment. Just tell me what you think actually determined the winner of this particular game. But let's dig into the matchup real quick. So Donovan has busted out a Hondo Cad Bane list, which I think is super cool. He actually inspired me. I got my Hondo painted after this game, and I'm looking forward to playing him on camera as well. And then I am playing a Luke and Jin list. This is actually Luke box and Jin box, kind of as is, which is weird for me. You guys know that I don't usually play the boxes as is, but this particular case, I decided on it. The main thing was, someone was asking, when are you going to have a Luke Skywalker game on the channel? And I wasn't super inspired. I didn't really want to play Luke Cassian. Started thinking about it some more, and I was like, man, this could actually be a thing. And so I wanted to try it out. I was considering Jin versus General Han Solo. I ended up choosing Jin because if I was playing Boosh, I thought having another spy primary would be useful. And so it was an interesting list, one that I would be willing to try again. I will preface this. I don't think this is the best showcase of what Luke can do. His impact was a bit more subtle. But overall, I still think it's an interesting list. I really like Donovan's list as well. He's playing IG-11. He's playing bounty hunters. The amount of force refresher that boy's list has is crazy. But let's just go ahead, dig right into the matchup. So we are playing shifting priorities in this particular case. And Donovan won priority, but I needed to reveal a card because he's got Grief Karga. And so the first time a bounty hunter gets a kill on that random character, then he's going to get an extra score. Certainly was not happy that came up on Lando and R2, as that seems like the absolute easiest character to get a wound on in my list. Whereas, say, for example, that comes up on Luke, he's like never getting that point. So we end up with the perfect crisscross applesauce. By the way, you might notice I deployed wrong. I deployed Jin range 1 from the line as opposed to deploying on the line. I do catch that before I move anyone on that side of the board, but I just wanted to shout it out now. I do once every 30 games. I for some reason do that, and my brain just slips up a little. So Donovan pulls Cad Bane to start things off. And this, in his shoes, I think it would be totally fine to start off with a Cad Bane activation, but he elects to reserve Cad Bane, which he gets to do for free because he's got Dengar. And then he pulls Shatterpoint, and I remember that I do need to actually get out my force. And he's going to elect to utilize the bounty hunters here as his Shatterpoint. Try to get on multiple objectives right away. So I think that's a good call. I think it's weird when you're like, I'm going to Shatterpoint my bounty hunter unit, because they're not widely perceived as a top tier support unit at the moment, but they are a unit that always gets to dash for free. And that in itself is really valuable. And their overall tree is totally fine. I would say the only downside for them is their defensive expertise is definitely mediocre, and their offensive expertise is okay. But Bounty Hunter's solid. I mean, I think in his list, you could certainly argue play Weequay in that slot. He probably could handle it. But, I mean, he's got a lot of Bounty Hunter synergy going on there, so I can see that, just having another Bounty Hunter is a big advantage for him. So he just, utilizes their free dash, takes a hunker, and then does their full advance so that they can start off on objectives, and he can start off controlling 3 points. We had a little conversation here about whether or not Dengar was in on this objective. It was really close. I just told him to go ahead and take it. I mean, he definitely could have deployed that way. Just something to be mindful of if you start veering one direction or the other. It also might be that objective is, could be slightly off in the positioning since it's not on the ground. My first pull here is Bodhi, and he is on the same side as the bounty hunters, but I'm actually a little concerned about Bodhi doing enough here. And if I activate Bodhi and don't take a point because I just roll bad, or the fact that they're hunkered and have cover, there is just I just feel like that could backfire really heavily on me. And so here is where I catch that I misdeployed, so we're just fixing it real quick. And just getting a quick correction in there. All right. So I do have to activate Jin here, which I think is okay, but this is certainly not... I was definitely feeling right away where I was like, man, is my order deck just being really brutal to me? So she was not quite in range to get the range 4 attack. That was actually the thing that kind of clued me in on like, wait a second, why am I even considering whether or not within range 4? That should not be possible. And then I'm like, yes, that's not possible because I'm too far forward. So, so here what I'm just trying to deliberate is there a world where I think that I can do my movement now, go up, but it just gets a whole lot more awkward if I use my movement now and then don't get I can't fit there, because it would be a whole lot easier for me to shoot, like shove myself forward a bit and then climb up to guarantee take the point. But I'm electing, I am going to go ahead and take my movement now. We're just kind of marking the spot at the bottom of the ladder so that I can see if I fit. But yeah, because of that little antenna setup, there's a little extra spacing for a base on the edge of that, and that helps me out. Donovan hadn't positioned trying to specifically block that. He almost certainly could have if he wanted to, but was just not thinking about that in the moment. So I am able to take away the hunker token, which helps. Now, funny thing here is I picked up the card, was looking at which side I wanted to be on, and then realized I actually set the card down and not the side that I wanted to be on. But I was like, all right, well, that's the side of the card I set down, so I'm going to stick with it. And because I was going with that side, I should have one more dice, which does not end up mattering. It's an expertise that does nothing. Now, the crazy thing that happens here is because I actually set down the card on the wrong side, I'm actually going to get the wound here. So it just goes to show, like, my thought process was, in the case of a bad roll, I want to be on the other side. Whereas, because I'm like, oh, at least I get like a shove and a pin, and so that was just my thought process. But then the dice went well and we were on camera. And so I wanted to just go with what I set down. But that actually, it was kind of like a mistake on my part based on my intentions, but ended up helping me overall, which getting that early wound on the bounty hunters is really good for me. And so there was definitely this moment where when she was coming up, I was like, oh man, I kind of wish that it was Han, because I was considering him in that spot and get some more movement on some other characters and maybe have an ability to actually like swing more points. But then she just comes out swinging and Jin's like, I'll show you why I should be in the list. Yeah. Yeah. The damage per tree is very similar, but the expertise on the other side would have been a hit to a crit instead of another crit. And so I would have been short one success and I would not have gotten the wound. But now he pulls bounty hunters. So here there's an argument where maybe I would have wanted to not wound them. And maybe if I had been on the other side and just went 4 down and they were shoved and pinned and low health, that it might help me. So here Donovan is just kind of checking to see whether or not that bounty hunter is already in range to shoot at Jin. And we're realizing it's really close, but he's going to have movement either way. And so he's just utilizing the free dash to go a little bit closer to her so they both can shoot at my poor Jin. All right. So here he's spending force so that he gets bonus dice, so that they have sharpshooter and impact, and he's focusing. All right, so the one that's further away is shooting first. Donovan's asking about the partially cocked one. I said go ahead and roll it. Still ends up as a fail. I end up with 2 blocks and a dash. But bounty hunters are able to go far enough down that I hit with 5 damage and a pin. Dash removes the pin. But what I was thinking about here was potentially trying to dash away, afterwards, or dash up and engage. I don't, but it didn't matter. I got pinned. This time I end up with 3 blocks and a dash. So only goes 2 down. I end up with 3 damage. So Jin is going to live. So here's what I was kind of thinking, like, do I dash down and try to take the other point, or do I just hang out up there and try to protect that one? And he is going to go ahead and utilize Cad Bane's jump. And he is marking towards. I will tell you here, this is a recent thing that we've been doing wrong. And that is the movement going up an ingress point still has to stay within the angle if you are doing something where you have to be moving towards or away from something. So in this particular case, that would not have been a legal jump. He had to be jumping towards Jin, and that going up the ingress point left the 90-degree angle. So, but that's something we realized after this game, and we will be doing correct going forward. So here I pull Luke. Again, I'm not happy about this because I really need to score another point, and I would really like to do something cool with Luke's activation. And the problem is that because I left Jin on that point, which probably was the right play in the moment, now Luke's going to have to move towards an objective and isn't really going to be scoring any points. So So here I'm just trying to figure out, like, how exactly do I make sure that Luke ends up on this point because he has to jump first. And so it's not one of the characters where you get to choose when you do his kind of shorter movement. And he's just kind of, and this might be partially my fault. There may be a reason to have deployed him on the other side, where it would have been a little bit easier for him to utilize the jump and the walk, but going that direction. So he jumps, walks, hunkers, and then I'm realizing that I don't have to have an enemy character on the objective to use. You can profit by this or be destroyed. So I'm going to like to use it just to dash him further up. So the way that works, you choose the active objective. Any enemies there get to choose to dash away from Luke. And there are no enemies there, so we ignore that part. And then Luke is just going to dash forwards. Yeah. So this is where I was saying that I didn't get to do a ton of cool things with Luke just based on when his card was coming up. And so that's obviously trying to do my first game with Luke, and the first activation comes up for him, and it's a walk and hunker turn. But he's a defensive character. Get him on the point. Feels good. And so at least I'm scoring a point. I could have gone for a Bodhi activation, but I was just worried that Bodhi wasn't going to be able to get a bounty hunter off the point. So just weird order deck for me to start. All right, so he pulls Hondo. And I am currently controlling 3 objectives, so Hondo refreshes 3 force, and Donovan is back to full. Doing good Hondo shenanigans. All right, and what is the plan with Hondo here? All right, so he walked forward, and now he's spending a force to do inspiring stories. Hondo's a weird one. I have 1 game under my belt with him, and I think I've played against him only a couple of times. He's got some very weird decisions about which side of his card you want to be on. His trees are very good, but he's got weird dice in relation to expertise. So he dashes Bounty Hunter forward, and then he dashes himself down and goes up an ingress point. I think his thought process here is that if he shoots, gets the kill on Jin, and then gets to jump Cad Bane forward, that he can end up scoring 4 points. Jin ends up with 4 blocks and a dash. And so he ends up with 4 hits, 2 crits. I block the 4 hits, so he's just going to go 2 down. And Jin had healed because Donovan had gained a momentum. And so now I'm back to having 8 damage on. I am immune to pin at the moment because of Luke, so the pin doesn't get applied. But he does get reposition with Hondo. And that allows him to jump Cad Bane towards Jin, and he is able to score 3. And we gain some more momentum, and Jin heals 2 damage. So again, I'm like, is it Bodhi time? And I'm still not confident that Bodhi is going to take an objective from the bounty hunters. And so really I'm at a point where Shatterpoint Shatterpoint or Baze and Chirrut would be really fantastic at the moment. Natsu was not really wanting Lando and R2. I think Boosh would have been totally fine. But now I've got to send my 3-cost support up against a point that's got 2 different primaries on it that both have really good defensive expertise. So R2 walks to the ladder. Or I think I spent for Mingle first. Lando does not quite get to the ladder. Jin, like I said, I think the only reason I'm in the game at this moment is because Jin was doing so well. So there Lando climbs and R2 walks forward. And then I've got enough bodies on the point that I'm going to take it, but I'd really love to get some damage in or shove somebody off a point. And so Lando and R2 are going to spend 4 extra dice. This is one of the abilities that gives +2 dice to both of the attacks. The downside is if an attack rolls 2 fails, the unit gets exposed, which can be cool with Luke when he protects them from expose, but this is happening in an awkward order. And I'm really good at rolling 2 fails with them. And so definitely 2 fails. And so it looks like just my crit goes through and I'll just deal 2 damage. And they are indeed exposed. This time he ends up with 1 block, but I end up with 3 fails, so it's still not anything too crazy. And so because I'm already exposed, this does expose me again, so now you take a damage. This is part of why I am not nearly as high on Lando and R2 as some people are. I swear I cannot do an activation with them without them getting exposed and losing a health, and then just being an exposed 6 health support. I was just seeing if the shove part was going to actually matter. And it looked like I did have the angle for it. I did get a heal. So I heal the exposed, but then I get re-exposed again because I rolled fails. So I was able to shove Hondo off the point, which is solid. And I was able to score 3. Like, it's so weird because I'm like, all right, it may look like I'm doing well at this moment, but I am not feeling confident about my position at all. I feel like I'm hanging on by the skin of my teeth and just barely surviving. All right, and then he pulls IG-11. Not a character that you have probably seen all that often. He is a single model support unit, 5 cost, and he is not a tiebreaker. But almost everything else on his card is quite good, except for if he gets targeted and is going to explode. So now he's going to shoot at Jin, who has all of 3 health left, and he is going to get a bonus dice. And so I don't think Jin is going to survive through a 3rd attack. Yeah, tons of successes here. And so he is going to go 4 down against Jin. So seems pretty reasonable he's going to get the kill there. She is still immune to pin because of Luke. He's away at and resolving a reposition. I was, because I know she's getting wounded, I was thinking since she gets to dash away, I was hoping that I would get in range to potentially be able to do healing on R2, and I just don't quite get it. Because she gets to heal when the opponent gains momentum, I thought, hey, maybe. But, all right, so IG-11 has already killed Jin. She is having flashbacks of her hanging out with K2SO. K2SO did threaten to shoot her a few times. So now IG-11 can actually make an additional shot targeting someone else, but it's 5 dice. And they are on a point that he is not controlling, and so he is going to roll 2 more dice on that one as well. I end up with 2 blocks, but he is going to go 6 down on a 5 dice attack. Yeah, so he's going to kill R2 and Lando as well. So IG-11 is going to rack up 2 kills on his single activation. That, there's something special about when someone plays a unit against you where the whole internet is like, he's bad. And you play against him, you're like, God damn it, he just wounded 2 characters. Now, mind you, Jin had been softened up a whole lot, but this is an epic play. There's no way that you're on the opposite side of this and not feeling like, damn, that's so bad for me. Yeah. Here he's just kind of evaluating all of the things that he's taking on his tree. He just gets to do the whole plethora of stuff. And he's getting some heals on Hondo. And he's already at full force, so the force refresh doesn't matter. And then he still has an action left. So he goes ahead and climbs up. And so now there's 3 bodies on that point. All right. So as you can see, you might have thought I was doing well after the prior turn. However, that did not feel good. So I pull Baze and Chirrut. Totally solid. Get to refresh a force. I'm thinking here, I definitely want to try to gang up and get a wound on the bounty hunters. So that next shuffle, they would potentially be leaving the table. Cut down on the scoring opportunities for the other deck. So spending a force now for some dashes. We are realizing here that he forgot to get the extra momentum for wounding with the Grief Karga token. And so he goes ahead and does that now. So Baze goes ahead. I'm going to switch to melee side now. And Baze is going to make the first attack on the Devronian bounty hunter that's kind of in the middle of the table. Removed some fails. I had 2 expertise. Becomes a crit and a hit. And so I'm going to end up going 4 down. It looks like there's some dice obscured. I think when I set up the camera for this particular table, I cut off the edge of the dice tray by accident. So I end up with 5 damage, shove, expose. So I shove the bounty hunter over, follow up Baze. All right. Great roll for Chirrut. End up with full tree. So I think I am going to go ahead and get the wound here. 6 damage, shove, pin, disarm. So I'm getting the second wound on the bounty hunters, which I feel good about. But I also know here comes, I believe, a cool Hondo shenanigans. And I asked Donovan, do you have triggers? Because I've only played against Hondo a little bit, and so I forget the exact rules on his. It is when the unit gets wounded, he can reposition, and he is, even though the exact character that I was wounding was more than range 4 away from Hondo, because the Deveronian was still within range 4 of Hondo, he is going to be able to use the ability. And so he is going to do it because I have nobody on the objective on the top middle. And so this was definitely something that I knew was a consequence of this play, but I was willing to take that risk. And so he takes 1 from me, but I take 2, so I am able to score 2 at least. All right, and he pulls Grief. And so he is going to spend a force to recover dash bounty hunters. That just gets Dengar further forward. Again, it's always good to protect your backline points when you can. And then he is going to advance forward and then hunker, and he has a tiebreaker, so he takes that point from Chirrut and scores 4 and wins the struggle. So considering I was pretty close to winning the struggle earlier, this is why I just wasn't feeling great about it. All right, so here we are on to struggle 2. I do still have characters on both of my back points, but now Dengar has moved up onto that kind of bottom middle point. And I roll fail for the priority objective, which is Boosh's point. And so here's where there's some awkwardness, is because of how quickly that first struggle went. I'm now at a point where 2 out of 3, and so I'm just going to hope that it wasn't Boosh. And it ends up being Shatterpoint, which was, it was a 50-50, but I needed to keep Bodhi there, so choosing to activate Bodhi wouldn't be great. And so here I'm electing to do Bane and Chirrut. This is one spot where I think I make a mistake. I think here this would have actually been a good turn to go ahead and get action in with Luke, where I think Luke jumping and heading over to fight against Dengar would have potentially been better. Dengar being steadfast, and the fact that Luke gets multiple shoves on his tree is really early was really nice. And so this was a spot where, in retrospect, I do think Luke probably would have been the right of activation there. I still would have been able to refresh a force, and I would leave Bane and Chirrut to kind of not making them easy targets for, because wouldn't be on an objective, so they wouldn't be as obvious of targets, and so I could preserve their health and force people to deal with Luke, which I think would have been better. I remove a fail. Good block, though, from Dengar. He blocks 4. So I just go 2 down against Dengar here. The shove doesn't matter, so I just do 2 damage and a disarm. I also made a mistake here where I should have moved them down and just like taken shots at Dengar first before actually moving them up, and I could have been rolling more dice. And here again, 4 blocks from Dengar, I just get 1 damage or 1 success through, so a couple more damage. Yeah. I really think, I made multiple mistakes that particular activation. I think Luke would have been definitely better, and I think that I definitely should have shot with Bane and Chirrut before moving up onto the objective. But plus side is I do score 4, so I can put a lot of pressure on struggle 2. I suspect that Donovan isn't going to fight over this all that significantly and just wants to plan for the next struggle. That is what I would be doing in his position 100%. After a score 4 where you're in control of none of the objectives, I would not be trying for this that significantly. He doesn't have a ton of damage spread on his characters. Like, there's no reason to drag out Struggle 2, I think, in his shoes. Yeah, so he's just utilizing a Cad Bane activation here. I think he just wants to get some damage in on Baze and Chirrut so that he can have them be, easier targets later on. Here he's realizing he can use Fair What's Fair to potentially strain Dengar. And so he's rolling a whole bunch of dice. I end up with 4 blocks crit to hit because of cover. So ends up with 5 damage, a jump, and a shove. So just kind of shoves, I believe, Chirrut, I think, further into the box. And then Cad gets off into a different point. Cad gains a momentum. I still don't have Jin in a useful position to do any good healing, which always is frustrating when I'm playing with her. I really think her ability to heal characters is really useful. And my list just hasn't been in a good spot to take advantage of that past the first couple of turns. All right, I go ahead and flip Boosh here. And she just repositions Bodhi a little bit. And here I'm just thinking spread around some damage and potentially be on some different objectives. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going to full advance on Boosh. And I shove into some boxes. I'm specifically utilizing the terrain here where I want the free focus, but I don't want to get into melee. Her ranged expertise is a little bit better. And so he ends up with 4 blocks and a crit to fail. And so about as good as you could possibly hope for from a Hondo block. But I still go 2 down because I end up with 2 crits even after the crit to fail. So I do 2 damage, pin, disarm. These try to make his life a little more difficult. And that's a quick end to struggle 2. When I first glanced, I was like, oh, this isn't great for him. But the problem was, because I moved Baze and Chirrut away from the midline and not doing Luke, it's really going to set up that midline for just being absolutely great for him. Thankfully, yeah, it's like, I guess it's nice that I'm going to have Luke starting off on one of these points, but yeah, the straight across the middle is just is actually kind of a really perfect pull for him. All right, and it's going to start off on Grief's point, where she's already controlling. So he goes ahead and he dashes Dengar. And here he's kind of debating whether or not he wants an attack on Baze and Chirrut. And so then he just walks up to the ingress point. He's just trying to kind of block. There's an ingress point on the other side that he's trying to make sure isn't useful. So here he's just going to go ahead and make a 5-dice attack. I end up with 2 blocks. And so 2 damage on Boosh. He's shooting at Boosh to, again, get the good angle for Cad to jump towards the character. He's not quite going to get onto the point, but he's going to get Cad closer. This is one of the things I love about playing Cad is there's so much potential on every activation to like how you utilize Cad in interesting ways. All right, and then, so the rough part about this is I'm trapped into a Bodhi activation. He was in reserve, and so now Grief Karga gets to trigger the ability that lets a Bounty Hunter dash when someone is activated from reserve. So now he gets to jump Cad Bane to that point that Luke is on, which was tied before, and now he's winning it, and I have no way of changing that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely not feeling like I have a lot of great options here. So 2 blocks, I believe I'm shooting. What I'm doing here is I'm actually shooting at the Bounty Hunter because I need to clear space. And so I go ahead and I shove the Bounty Hunter down. And then spend my last force, and I'm going to dash Baze to the ladder. Now that the Bounty Hunter's out of the way, that lets me get Baze up there. And so I score the priority point, but I'm only scoring 2. And so, honestly, in this moment, I'm definitely feeling like I've lost. So, fresh deck, he pulls Dengar, immediately reserves for free. Now he's going to pull Bounty Hunters. And so here he's like, well, Bounty Hunters definitely score a point. I will at least shout out, Grief has done some mean shit in this particular game. If you've never played against Grief, he can be a little like Paz, where there are games where Grief feels like such an anchor activation. And then in this, you take a game like this where Grief has been a kind of a menace for me and like doing such good things for Donovan. And so I think he's a character that we should be considering more. I still think he's niche, but I think there are specific lists that can make really good use of him, and I think this is potentially one of them. I end up with 2 blocks versus this Bounty Hunter attack. Yeah. So now I think I'm going to end up losing Bodhi in addition in this activation, which I was really hoping would not be the case. No shove because I am steadfast at the moment. So 6 damage. So now I'm pretty confident that Bodhi's going to get wounded. He is marking the strain damage, even though it doesn't matter. They're going to leave the table after this activation. Because what's so rough about this is if they don't get the wound on Bodhi, then I at least know that I'm guaranteeing taking the point back next turn. But because it's going to wound Bodhi, that'll stay tied. It'll just be Baze and Dengar. So still 2 blocks. So he is going to go ahead and get the wound. So a momentum for the wound. He gets a refresh of force. Cad is already at full. Yeah, Jin is still not in range for any recovers. Yeah, so just for the video, he's climbing them up so they can flip the point. He scores 4. So still feels really bad for me. Priority roll is the middle. Yep. Flip. Yeah, so I remember how I was feeling flipping Lando and R2 here, and I'm like, oh my god, do I have any chance in this whatsoever? It's not them. All right. Flip. Jin. So here, again, I'm like, Jin, you are not the pull that I want. But I'm like, okay, you have to be my activation now. And so I'm like, so I start kind of mathing it all out in my head. And I'm like, well, if she can shove someone off of the point with Luke that Luke is on, and she can kill Dengar, I could score 3, and I'm back in it. And I'm at least not just automatically losing. So I'm starting off, I'm going to roll 5 dice into Cad Bane. So he ends up with 5 blocks, but I end up with 3 crits. So I end up with 4 damage and a shove, so I do get Cad off the point. And so I've got a free dash here. I need to not be engaged with IG 11. So and now I'm just like, oh god, I need you to, because if I don't kill Dengar here, I think I just basically lose the game. And so I'm going to elect to focus. Um, 3 blocks from Dengar. And she comes out swinging. I have 4 expertise. So I end up with 2 crits, a crit to hit from expertise. So I end up with 4 crits. So that is enough to wound Dengar. So 6 damage disarm on Dengar. I gain a momentum, and she gets to dash backwards because she gets a dash after each of her attacks. Although I suppose I am forgetting that would cost force now. I don't think that matters over the course of the game, but I would have to be spending force for that because that is a reaction. So now Donovan's looking at the Dengar activation and going, hey, do we just pull Dengar, take a point with him? Mm-hmm. So we just got some kind of deliberation. He realized he hasn't rolled for priority. It's fail again, so it's the middle. So I think that's where he's thinking, oh, maybe this is just do the Dengar activation. There's already 5 damage on Baze and Chirrut. So we just got, again, just some more thinking going on here, trying to execute the right play. Obviously, there's a lot of options in the deck at the moment. Bounty Hunters have been removed, so, it's Grief, Hondo, CAD, IG-11, or Shatterpoint. He's going to elect to go ahead and activate Dengar here. He removes the Strain, and then he's going to do a recover action to remove the Disarm, and rolls 8 dice into Baze. So I end up with 3 blocks. So he's only going to go 2 down. So 3 damage shove. So 3 damage is not enough to wound. Here I'm double checking. Do I still have Steadfast? And Bodhi, and Donovan's like, no, you do not have Steadfast. I was like, well, actually, I'm getting it from Bodhi here. Bodhi. And so, yeah, it's just an allied rebel character within range 3 that is contesting an objective has Steadfast, and it does not turn off when he's wounded. So he ends up only scoring 1. And so suddenly, something where I was sure I was losing. There was no way that I was going to win. That somehow I'm still in it. I'm about to flip the card, and I'm like, wait a second. Is Lando and R2 the right play here? I'm like, Luke, Shatterpoint, Baze and Chirrut. So I flip, and I get Bodhi. So Bodhi is starting off controlling the objective. And so he is going to spend the momentum rather than let me roll and get more momentum. Although I think again here, that should cost me a force. And so I should definitely be at a lower force total here. Wow, I am being awful with my force usage. So definitely, like, Bodhi's been wounded, so that would cost me another force. Now, the plus side is I do get to spend momentum for abilities if I need to. So it's certainly something where I would have the ability to make these plays regardless. I'm just annoyed at myself in this moment for not spending the right amount of force. There he's going to go ahead and take a shot at Grief. All right. So 4 blocks from Grief, but I still end up with 3 down the tree. And I do 4 damage shove. And then with the last action, he's going to hunker onto the point. So I score 4. Pulls Shatterpoint. And so obviously, like, whenever you're starting to feel the game slip away a little bit, who doesn't want a Shatterpoint in the moment? So I think he's activating Hondo, and he's just trying to figure out if he would have line of sight. So he's going to go ahead and shoot at Baze, even though he's disarmed. I end up with 4 blocks crit to hit. And so because I only had 1 health left, that does get me the last. And so that will get a wound on Baze and Chirrut. He refreshes a force. Cad gets to heal. And then there is a strain now on Dengar. And so then looks like he's spending a force to jump Cad Bane back up onto the point. And where is Hondo going now? I imagine he's climbing up onto the middle point. I mean, he's scoring that either way. Yeah, that looks like what Donovan's kind of eyeing now. Yeah. He's taking that point either way because Baze is wounded and... All right. And now I have a Shatterpoint. Luke is on an objective already. This is probably bringing back Baze and Chirrut and getting them active again. I was lightly considering a Boosh activation here. And so doing some force refresh from Baze and Chirrut. And so I'm kind of eyeing, I'm like, okay, so there's... Oh, so when Hondo had done the free dash, he had moved Grief back onto the point, so he took the point back from Bodhi. And so here I'm just like, you know what? I just want to take this far point is the priority. And so they both dash and walk. And they are both going to punch Grief. If rolls went well, I had one in range to shoot at Hondo. I remove 2 fails. Expertise becomes a crit and a hit. I do go 2 down. Which will do 3 damage and a shove. I am going to elect to not shove him off. I'm scoring the point either way, but I want the wound. And he got 4 blocks again, but I'm still going to have 2 crits, so I'm going to do 2 damage shove. So shove him backwards a little bit, get myself a wound. And so I'm asking him if he wants to do anything with the Hondo trigger. He does not want to. I score 3. And so priority roll is the expertise, which is the Luke and Jin point that also has Cad Bane and IG-11 on it, it looks like. And so we're just correcting some objective placements. So he goes ahead and he's going to dash IG-11 down and then shoot at Jin. I end up with 3 blocks reposition from Jin. Thankfully for him, he was like, oh no, you're immune to pin. But no, we reshuffled, so I'm immune to expose now, not pin. And so this is where I'm like, there is some frustration with Luke that I'm like, not sure he's ever feels like he's on the right side. And so he is able to shove her off. The reposition removes the pin. Just resolving some shoves. And then he's just going to climb back up onto the point. And then he will score 3. IG-11's doing work this game. Cannot begrudge that. So now I'm thinking, is this Lando R2 time? Because I do need to take that objective back. I am going to go ahead and do Lando and R2. And so now I'm just kind of figuring out like who I want to attack and like in which order. They are both starting off on the point. I do remember to spend the right amount for Element of Surprise at least. But I think here, if I had done all the force correct, I think I probably would have needed to spend momentum for that from Jin. I remove 2 fails. 1 expertise is a damage. He has recover and jump and 4 blocks. So I end up with just 3 damage. And so I think he's just going to recover a damage. The Element of Surprise is on both attacks. And so what he's doing here is he's just moving Cad Bane out of punch range for R2. And so this is where, like, I think I should have done the attacks in a different order. And so I think a slight mistake there. And so R2 has to attack IG-11. IG-11, for me, lucky, does not roll any expertise. I roll 3 expertise, which becomes a hit and a damage. And so I'm going to go 3 down. So I do 3 damage, shove, pin on IG-11. And I didn't put any expose or damage on them this time because Luke is currently giving them immunity to expose. And I score 3. And so then the priority roll is the one that has Baze and Chirrut and Bodhi on it. He pulls Hondo. And I think the problem that he's having here is like, how do you end up taking a point? So he does Hondo, he refreshes back to full force. He's already controlling the middle. It is probably impossible for him to take the point from Baze and Chirrut and Bodhi. He currently has Cad Bane on the point over there. And is trying to figure out if he can take the point from Luke, R2, and Lando? Like, is there a way? I'm just pulling up a card real quick. So it looks like he dashes Cad Bane into a better spot and dashes Hondo. Looking up some cards. And what he wants to do is he wants to be not engaging Luke, but be and to be able to shoot at R2 or Lando. And so that's where he's just trying to stay out of the engagement range of Luke. So Luke, like I said, is having a lot of passive impact on the game, but not a lot of like really active impact. Oh, I think he's shooting at R2 because he wants to get the bonus dice. Five damage, pin, reposition, shove, disarm. So a lot of stuff. But I don't think he's taking the point. Let's see if I can actually look up the thing that I wanted to look up. Just wanted to take a look at the R2 card. Yeah. Yeah, the reason, like, obviously he could have taken the point if it hadn't been for the fact that I was able to pin IG-11. So he does not take the point. He scores 1. We both gain a momentum. He does gain a momentum, so I heal 2 off of Jin. So it's a priority roll where it's a point that I already have. So plus side there is I wanted to the point there, but I think technically I mismanaged force and I would have had 1 less momentum. So I would have had to actually do an activation there to win the game. So I just would have needed a wound or to take the middle point that just has Dengar on it. So I think there's a strong possibility that I would still win the game there. I was really worried when I started noticing just like how poorly I managed my force in that second shovel and was forgetting about wound penalties. It's like I've been playing too many Mandos or something. But in the end, because of Jin, I would have just been that last activation with them where I would have had to spend a momentum. So I was 1 momentum behind. So I needed 1 more point. So I don't think it changed the outcome of a game, but it is a good kind of message for myself to make sure to keep that kind of stuff in mind. I was kind of surprised. I remember thinking while I was playing the list, I was like, I'm not feeling like I feel like the list almost had too much force because I was not utilizing Jin's momentum stuff at all. And I realized, it wasn't the list had too much force. The list was me making mistakes. But overall, yeah, I think it would have been pretty, if I'd pulled Luke or something, there's a good chance that I just get to like beat up on Cad Bane or IG-11 that I've now softened up, have the chance to potentially just finish those guys off, which would have been fairly likely. But overall, man, for a game that I felt like I was losing the whole time I felt disadvantaged, and I thought for sure Donovan was going to come out on top of this. And then in the key moment, I mean, both of Jin's activations were super clutch, and she was rolling exactly what I needed to keep me in the game, and her ability to make multiple attacks, just fantastic. So big shout out to Jin for keeping me in this game. And then obviously I also think that Dengar happening to not roll great on that key turn to keep Baze alive and not get shoved off the point because of Bodhi was incredibly clutch and probably the turning point that swung the momentum the most. But overall, this was a game that I was like, I won, but like I weirdly didn't feel good about winning it because I kind of felt like Donovan was always making better plays than me, always like just in a better position, and like his order deck was swinging the right. I was firing, and I just always felt like his order deck was out to get me, and my order deck did not want to do me any favors, but somehow managed to come out on top of this game. So the one thing I would say is like just stay in games, because there's always a chance that that you find a way, and remember to double check abilities. I had to double check Bodhi's ability mid game to make sure that it still worked while he was wounded, because I just haven't gotten that many games in with him yet. And so check that stuff. A lot of times I would say one of the key factors when I win a game that I think I'm losing, I almost always end up rereading a card at some point in that game to see if an ability applies to a situation, and then it does, and that helps me stay in it. And so that would be like a key lesson that I would have for people in general. But overall, and big shout out to Donovan. Donovan, I know you thought you had me in this one, and I thought you did too, for sure. I definitely thought you were coming out on top of this one, but I will also say, I really liked your list, Donovan. I thought the Hondo Cad Bane, my very next game after playing this one, ended up being a Hondo Cad Bane list. So shout out to your list creation in general and just being a wonderful opponent. And so to all the people who are watching, hope you enjoy. I at least put Luke on the table and in front of the camera. I know it wasn't his best game, but then we got Donovan representing with IG-11 and Hondo getting more cool action for the channel of stuff that you don't normally see. And Grief was great this game. Holy crap, was Grief. He was literally griefing me. And so we'll close things out there and just say the most OP thing that you can do is remember, comment, tell me, what did you think won this game? Later, nerds.